I'm the bad guy?
Yeah.
How'd that happen?
Yapping on all the time. You're lucky you're not next to him. What do you mean? You snore. Oh, I don't. Anyway, you've got bad breath.
What filthy piece of shit did I do now?
Yeah, pardon my French, fuck those fuckers.
Let's give that boy a lift. What? No! Wait! We can't stop here. This is bad country.
The Three Amigos!
It's inappropriate characters. Excuse me.
Hello and welcome to Inappropriate Characters. This is the RPG Pundit. I'm here with Venger and, for a while longer at least, we hope, Grim Jim. I guess that we should get right into the big reveal. One of the three of us is ill, and by his cough, I think you may have guessed which one it is. Now, my theory is this. A few days ago, some of you who maybe are, American viewers might not be aware of this because news for some reason tends to travel less in the US. But the Prime Minister of Britain, Boris Johnson, the guy who saved Britain from the EU, was infected. He confirmed that he's got the coronavirus. And Grim Jim made fun of him on Twitter because for some reason Grim Jim doesn't seem to like, British sovereignty or something like that. And so I'm saying, a couple of days later, suddenly Grim Jim's got like what is clearly like the super AIDS version of the virus.
Super gonorrhea,
I'm pretty
surely.
sure that the Illuminati got him for his unfair mockery of dear Boris. I don't know.
It's rather unfair to kick a man while he's down.
That's right.
I thought we weren't supposed to name the unnameable virus.
Oh, God damn it. You're right. I just screwed up my own rule there. Well, we'll see. We'll see if they cut us off. The last time I did a live stream in my channel, I was talking about the virus. And as soon as I said the actual name of the thing, the whole live stream shut down. And then after we were referring it to something like, Koro-chan or something, some code word, right? The Kung Flu. But I guess we'll have to see. Maybe they've loosened the restrictions of that because probably everyone's talking about it now. Anyways, Grim's going to take a bit of
YouTube's, bending the knee to China, probably.
Yeah, it could be.
Anyway, I'm mostly going to be quiet and keep an eye on the chat for everybody. So
that's right. So Grim is going to be talking a little less this episode than he usually does, considering that he's usually the one that talks least of the three of us. Anyways, that's going to be a bit imbalancing, but we'll see what we do.
We're tired.
Yeah. Today we're going to talk about the pandemic, as it were, and how it's affecting gamers and whatnot. And then we'll also be answering your questions, and we'll also probably be promoting our stuff, of course. So to start with, I wanted to know. We now know. I've already asked my co-hosts how they're doing. Apparently, one of them is well, the other one is not. But how are people's gaming going? I don't know if Venger, are you do you have a regular gaming group? And if you do, have they been disrupted because of the quarantine and what have you?
I have a semi-regular group. When I call upon them and shout out into the void, Avengers assemble. Then they come out of the woodwork, and we're usually playtesting like one thing or another. But we don't get together like every week or even every other week. Usually, the most I can manage these days is a once a month full like 4-hour session, either at my place or a game store, and then we do that, and so it's basically a one shot. It's not really any kind of campaign.
So you haven't experienced any disruption yet, I guess, because of this
Oh,
voluntary.
my entire life is like.
Well, no, I mean in game. Obviously, I know that depending on where you are in the U.S., in some cases, things have been extremely disrupted.
Yeah, I've gone to the grocery store like a couple times in the last 13, 14 days, and that's it. So, and normally I would be playing online, like Roll20 or something like that, but these days, I've got to watch all 5 kids with my wife, and it just takes too much time and it's too exhausting. And I'm trying to finish up some writing for Chalt's Fuchsia Malaise. And so I really have no time. There's no time for gaming, unfortunately, which if you have less responsibility, it seems like this could be a gaming palooza for you, because you could be gaming like 3 games a day, every day if you wanted to. But for those of us, that have kids that would normally be in school, we're in charge of the daycare at our house, and you can't go anywhere, and you can't really like send your kids off to anybody to play or have other kids over or anything. So yeah, it's weird, but yeah, the gaming on my front is pretty non-existent.
All right. So as for me, as you know, I live in South America, in Uruguay, one of the last countries to have a confirmed case. And it only yesterday have we had the first confirmed death, a person that was over 70 and not in great health to begin with. And so it's been a bit milder here than in many parts of the US or Europe. And luckily, the brand new conservative government that we have here that replaced 15 years of socialist rule have been quite clever in how they're handling things. So we don't have like this kind of absolute lockdown that you've seen in other places. We have very strong social pressuring for people not to needlessly go out. Obviously, all large mass events are canceled. Concerts, sports, soccer got canceled, which was a huge blow down here, I guess. And, any kind of large groupings. Yikes. Sorry, that's Big Chungus just came onto my lap here. She's the largest, fattest cat I ever met, and she needs hugs. So anyway, we're the long story short of it is that it's completely possible for live in-person gaming to still happen, but it's something that still I've found there's been disruption, because obviously the level of concern that the government has mandated and that people are expressing depends a lot on whether you are in a high risk position or have family members that are in a high risk position that you live with. And so obviously there you want to isolate yourself more. And I run 4 groups, two groups a week, alternating weeks, right? So I have a lot more gaming going on than I guess either of my other hosts, because Grim just said here in the comments that he runs a game about every month and a half, and you run a game maybe once a month. I run 2 games a week, right? But 2 of the 4 games now have definitively been suspended because there are either people gaming that have health issues, or people gaming whose family members that they live with have health issues that they don't want to risk exposure to the virus. And my other groups are kind of tentative depending on what's going on. But the long story short is this last weekend, I haven't, like this weekend, I guess, I haven't actually managed to get any gaming. Normally I'd have gamed on Friday and Saturday, but both of those had to be canceled. The one on Friday was canceled because of me, because I had a conference that I had to do, but the other one got canceled because people can't come to that one. And I'm resisting doing online gaming, but there is a very good chance that if this doesn't disappear, like, if the virus doesn't vanish as if by a miracle, like President Trump told us it would, by next weekend, by December, then we're going to December, by April, I meant to say, by next weekend, then my DCC group is possibly going to be gaming live on Zoom or something. And if they are, there's a very slight chance we might just record it and upload it so people can actually see what an actual live session of that crazy campaign is. But yeah, that's my situation. Grim, I saw you were commenting on the chat. I've seen other people commenting on the chat here saying, Martin says, all my groups are scrambling to figure out online RPG. And I certainly understand that, but for a lot of us, online RPG just seems so inferior to playing live that it in my case anyways, it really rankles me. Dave Deadman says, our weekly group has gone mutually into exile. I'm trying to convince people that playing online is not utterly subpar. Well, good luck, because it is utterly subpar, Dave. And that's all the comments we got. Dave Deadman says, you can do it, pundit. Google Hangouts can be fine. Just no cosplay, please. No, trust me, there would definitely be no cosplay.
I don't mind short text-only games. I'm probably in the minority here. But
really?
if I'm running something
like email stuff?
Just for an hour or so on Roll20, then I prefer just doing it text-only and not having to hear people or manage people talking over other people. Yeah, I mean, you have to give it a little bit to get back into the zone of like imagining what people are saying by reading it instead of listening to it. But I think it works great. And for a game master, for me personally, I type fast and I write better than I talk. Obviously, it works great because all I need is like an extra 5 to 10 seconds to collect or manage my thoughts and come up with, either something better or a better way of saying whatever it is I'm trying to say at the time.
I get you. So Grim here has posted on the chat a link to a Facebook group he's got for organizing online gaming sessions with himself. So anyone who's watching, check out the chat box, look it up, and you'll find a group if you want to ever play a game with Grim Jim. And he also said that he usually plays Theater of the Mind games, so no need for Roll20, etc. Check out the sessions over on Grim's stream. There we are. I guess the next topic, if we're going to jump right over to the next one, is related. It's trying to figure out, I mean, obviously, the economic consequences of this are really, really bad. I think there's a very real risk that if we don't stop some of the excessive quarantining, that you'll actually end up with a bigger economic disaster that will probably end up killing more people than the coronavirus. I mean, be it by, if it's on a global scale, be it by starvation or malnutrition, by civil unrest and violent revolutions and conflicts, or by suicide. People, already the suicide rate in some parts of the United States are like up 100% because of all the people lost their jobs. And I'm guessing in a lot of other countries it's the same. I can't imagine what it's like in Italy right now. So I think that we need to get things running again. But one thing that's happened because of this economic collapse is that a lot of pocket industries are having serious trouble. We know, for example, and I'm sure all of us are shedding a tear, the mainstream media is suffering terribly. They've lost, apparently they've had to fire hundreds of people that work for, mainstream media websites and and for newspapers and stuff like that. But also the comics industry. Yeah, I know. And the comics industry that has been producing such fine works lately, like, Snowflake and Safe Space, the New Warriors and Captain Marvel, what was it? Carl Manvers, and all of that are basically done. They've basically fallen to pieces because the supply network has crashed. Every single comic shop is going out of business. DC Comics is trying to talk about some kind of method of salvaging itself from the rubble. But that was an industry that was already really, really suffering, where their sales had just collapsed massively over the last few years, and that was in the biggest economic boom in American history. And now, they're not going to survive. But the question is, what about RPGs? I don't know what the effect is going to be in that case, because is gaming going to be more resilient than, say, the harm that's coming to Hollywood and to comics and to other kind of hobby things? I don't know about video games. But video games might be fine because people are all at home playing video games, right? What about RPGs? Are we going to see a small, serious, or no downturn at all in sales of RPG products? What do you think, Benjer?
I think certain areas there's going to be a downturn. I think the bigger companies, they're expecting a lot of sales through like gaming stores and conventions, and just a lot of hype and collective play, or whatever it's called. That's going to be hurting. But I think the small games that have a devoted following that people are passionate about, like the grassroots gaming, independent stuff, I think that's going to do okay. Some Kickstarters are definitely going to hurt, just because there's a lot less money in the economy, and the economy is going to be screwed. I don't know to what degree, but it's definitely it is suffering, and it's going to suffer more. So yeah, that's going to affect it too. But I don't think role playing will die or go out of fashion. It survived many years of nobody giving a shit, and I think it's going to continue to do good things, because after all, there's Chult, and if Chult can't save D&D and role-playing games in general, or the OSR, then it wasn't worth saving in the beginning.
All right, so look, I'm in a unique position compared to the two of you guys in that I'm a writer. I'm not a publisher. I don't produce any of my own products. And so I only find out how well my books are doing about a month later, right, when I get my royalty checks. And I can say, for example, that February was my best sales month ever in terms of RPG books. I mean, in every respect, both the stuff with Dumb Publishing, the old presses stuff, the stuff with Spectre Press, all of it, really, really well in February. Now, I still don't know how it's going to be in March. And you, Venger, and Grim Jim, and maybe somebody in the chat, you guys are people that sell your own books. And have you noticed any downturn so far in terms of your sales?
I'll risk some of my voice on this, but I'll hover over the mute button in case I start coughing again. I've had a good month, but it's not a great indicator because I had a reasonably big release this month.
Mm-hmm.
Which was
Satana Station, for my entry in our Space Station rivalry competition. For Machinations of the Space Princess. Yeah, I'll comp you a copy.
Thank you.
So that's doing well. And we've got a big sale going on stock art if anyone's got their own projects they want to go for. To help out the artist I work with most of the time, Brad McDevitt. That's gone quite well. So I've had my best month in a while, actually. But I don't think I'm a good indicator necessarily. Looking at what other people are saying, I think it's the mid-tier companies that are going to suffer the most, because Kickstarters are going to be delayed because of Chinese manufacturing. There's not as much money sloshing around. They won't be able to go to conventions to build hype and so on. So
all right.
Yeah, I think it's the mid-tier ones that are going to hurt, and it's smaller, more agile, cheaper, sort of PDF-oriented, smaller companies and producers that are going to do well. I also think there's going to be a flood of crap because a lot of people are bored at home and writing stuff. But there is a lot of love and support for freelancers and small publishers and so on out there, and I think that's also part of the reason I'm doing a bit better this month, is because people are going out of their way to support people like us, basically.
So you hear that, everybody? If doing any writing at home, just stop, put your pen down. What you're writing is bad, and Grim doesn't want to see it.
Yeah.
So on your bike. Yeah.
What about you, Venture?
I haven't noticed much. My sales are kind of about where they normally are, in the somewhat good to totally piss poor range, somewhere in there. So we're holding strong with fairly mediocre. No, my sales are pretty good, generally speaking. And yeah, they haven't changed that much. But I do anticipate a slowdown or a downturn. And just speaking more generally, because of the pandemic, if this changes the gaming landscape, so more people gravitate towards online gaming than face-to-face, that could change things, complicated systems and things like, I mean, I don't know if Pathfinder 2nd edition is still as complicated as 1st edition, but things like that where it's a lot of numbers and number crunching and optimization and stuff like that. I mean, that could stay with us forever, but there's a chance that could go away in favor of more rules-light games. The old school approach could dominate even more than it already has. And, simpler for noobs that just want to log on in their pajamas and or at the office like I do and play for an hour or two and then just log off and, go on with their lives. So if that changes gaming, then gaming itself might change. That's my speculation.
So, Venger, you're the only one in our group here who I think who has a regular day job. Without going into any details, is that secure? Are you in a stable situation there?
Sorry. Without going into details, what about my day job?
Sorry, I'm not hearing you very well. I was saying you're the guy that has a day job. A lot of people are having problems with their day jobs. The 3.2 million unemployed in the U.S. Are you in a stable situation as far as that is concerned?
Financially, yes. I am very fortunate to have a cushy management position, and so I can just stay home and have our employees take care of the main stuff. So yeah, I don't have to go in to the office or do anything. I just stay at home, take care of the family, and hope that things recover soon. If this gets catastrophically worse, then yeah, that's going to put me in a bad position, just like everybody else. But
of course.
So far, so good that it hasn't deeply impacted me financially. But you never know. So knock on wood.
Yeah, indeed. Look, my perspective on this is that, I mean, given that there are a lot of people, worldwide who have lost their jobs this already because of this economic situation, and that there are probably more that are going to, and then there are going to be other people that might not be, that they might be like totally secure in their jobs, but that are still going to feel more nervous about expenditure than they usually would just because of the general economic instability. I think it's pretty inevitable that you'll be seeing something of a downturn in gaming industry like every other industry.
Right.
But there's an interesting phenomenon. Like, for example, with comics, what seems to be happening by all accounts, I've been researching it this last week, and what I've seen is basically Marvel and DC are doomed because of the complete collapse of their delivery service, and they were already doing really badly, and their parent companies were probably already looking for an excuse to shut them down, right? But the small independent producers of comics that are mostly relying on Kickstarter, in other words, the people that call themselves Comicsgate, seem to be doing really, really well, actually. And they've been their Kickstarters are being funded and they're succeeding. And you've even seen a couple of people who were kind of mainstream comic artists that have suddenly started to say nice things about Comicsgate. The ones that were always kind of quiet until then, because I guess they were afraid of the SJW crowd, that are now suddenly trying to get on the bandwagon of that because they see what's coming. They see it, they're never going to get work for Marvel or DC again anyways, because those are probably finished as companies that produce comics, that produce new comics anyways. And so they see that might end up being the entire future of viable comics is really small press companies, sort of like a comics version of the OSR. And in terms of gaming, well, D&D is really lucky in that it's not in the same position as Marvel or DC, whereas Marvel and DC Comics were both doing really terribly for the last 5 years. D&D has been doing really, really well. So I think that the economic downturn definitely won't be an excuse for Hasbro to shut them down, because Hasbro is probably pretty happy with them right now. But whatever difficulties they have, I think I agree with, both you and Grim said it, that the OSR anyways is really it's the survivor of the gaming world. Other companies that have tried to be more ambitious, besides Wizards of the Coast, which will, like I said, will probably be okay, but a lot of those companies in between, say between Wizards of the Coast and your guys publishing, all of the ones in between that range are probably going to have some serious trouble. And quite a few of them are probably going to go broke. And I'm betting that the ones that are going to go most broke quickest are the most woke ones, because that's another phenomenon that I've noticed about this pandemic. Though, one of the few bright sides is that people have realized that all that other stuff that people were getting hysterical about until now was just absolute nonsense, and nobody's got time to care about, your diversity quota or something like that. Anything to add? Go ahead.
Grim, do you want to add anything?
Just the stuff I was saying in the chat, really. It's kind of ironic that comics are getting screwed over because they really took off during the Great Depression. So you would think, during an economic downturn, people would go to those. But I guess they're just not cheap or aspirational anymore.
Exactly.
Just like Star Trek isn't anymore. So there's a gap. There's a gap there to be exploited.
Let me save your throat here, and I'll mention some stuff from the chat, Grim. Canuck Saram says, old school gamers will keep on keeping on. The Critical Role wokeaboos might fade away, and nary a tear will be shed. Dave Dedman says, my policy is limit my schadenfreude lest something I value gets scuttled too. And just because enjoying other folks' misfortune is cuntish. Well, a little bit of schadenfreude is appropriate in certain circumstances. Canuck Saram asks, would anyone lament Hasbro divesting itself of D&D? I don't think that's going to happen, Saram. It's really, really unlikely.
Yeah, especially if they get into movies and things that can change the landscape from $1 million property to, maybe $1 billion. I mean, if you look at Marvel and the superhero thing, if Hasbro, plays their cards right and gets on the a series of movie train, they could take D&D to like a whole nother level. Which I
don't know.
It's kind of a no-brainer, and so I don't think they're going to ditch that IP, no matter what.
Venture, how many movies based on video games have done really, really well at the box office? Not a lot, right? Like,
right, not a lot.
That were real.
Are you comparing D&D to a video game?
Well, I am, in the sense that neither of them are literature, right? The difference with comics is that they've got like 50 years of actual stories to base themselves on, right? Whereas D&D the movie, what is that? It's just a random party of randos doing rando shit, right? That's why the D&D movies have never been big successes, because D&D is a world and it's a type of game, but it's not really a story. And so it's very hard to translate that into something that will be meaningful in any sense other than, taking some kind of, B-grade fantasy novel and slapping the word D&D on it and pretending that that's the D&D movie.
There's still like 1,000 modules that don't suck that they can pull from. And, if they did like the Temple of Elemental Evil, the movie, I mean, who wouldn't want to see that unless they heard from a friend that, oh my God, it's just so bad. It's terrible. Like, unless you hear feedback like that, who that's been playing D&D for the last 30 years or more wouldn't be like, yes, I want to see the Temple of Elemental Evil, the movie, like next weekend. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, maybe if you made it a kind of Tomb Raider, Indiana Jones sort of thing of, make up some stupid cast of player characters and then show the crazy stuff in the dungeon. But there'd be very little about it that would really be D&D, except for kind of, some of the surface shellacking of it.
Well, you get Tom Hanks to reprise his role as Bardo or whatever, Bardu, whatever it was from that unfortunate D&D movie. Yeah. And then you get a bunch of other...
That's the only really famous D&D movie there ever was, Mazes and Monsters or whatever it was called.
Well, there was that pile of crap from the late 90s or no, early 2000s. Everybody knows about it because it sucks so hard. As a cautionary tale, they know to stay away, I suppose. It was really bad, but a lot of people saw it. I mean, it probably didn't bomb that bad. It just forced them never to make a good sequel.
Vision Storm in our chat says, just woke up from an afternoon nap. Freaking YouTube isn't showing the stream in my subscription page. A reminder to everyone watching, if you haven't subscribed, obviously please subscribe. But if you are subscribed, be sure to hit the notification bell so that you improve your chances that YouTube will actually let you know when we're doing a live stream. Maybe that's what happened here, and a lot of people didn't get that notification. So yeah, make sure that you hit that notification bell. Grim Jim says, RPGs are a huge value for money, which will help in the economic downturn, and the mini boom will have once this passes. Hate to say it, but Wizards' shift to supporting streaming is looking like a good move. Well, yeah, it's possible. I don't know. I guess we'll see. There could be some weird effects from all of this that we're not.
I hadn't considered the.
Pardon me?
I hadn't considered the downturn of like Critical Role. Like, those guys have disbanded for now because of the whole virus thing. They don't want to get together in a studio and play together, social distancing and all that. So, yeah. I mean, if that and a bunch of the other big actual play shows, podcasts, whatever, stop production, that could be good for real role playing.
Maybe. It's a good question. I think a lot of the fans of those sorts of shows, if the shows are on hiatus, just won't do anything. But maybe some of them will take it as an opportunity to play actual role-playing games. It could happen.
Yeah.
It's possible. Mm.
Well, we should probably get to
Dave
show
Deadman says,
our 25 minutes.
Oh, okay.
25 minutes left to talk about our stuff.
all right. Well, give me a second to catch up on the comments, and then I'll let you start shilling, okay? Dave Deadman says, not a publisher or author, though I feel for those struggling. Well, while I'm still ambulatory, there will always be a group of odd desperates to fill seats for my game. So it's academic to me mostly. Grim Jim suggests that maybe Dragonlance done properly or Drizzt would be good subjects for a D&D movie. Ouch.
Yeah, Drizzt would be phenomenal. Yeah, actually, that's a no-brainer. That's probably even a bigger catch than the Temple of Elemental Evil, like the with the Icewind Dale trilogy, and then the Dark Elf stuff. I mean, that's put that in the theater tomorrow. That's going to do gangbusters, unless they royally fuck it up.
Okay, but is that really D&D the movie, or is that Forgotten Realms novel the movie?
I mean, if you play it right, if you don't. If you got to walk that fine line of keeping it kind of like serious and dark, yet not too pretentious and self-involved and lame, something like Game of Thrones, but with a bit more humor or lighthearted fun, or love for adventure, like that kind of thing. Hasbro, call me. Because I got ideas.
Good luck with that, Venture. All right, I think we're caught up here. So, all right, Venture, what are you currently what are you working on? What are you selling right now?
Well, I'm still selling Chalt, obviously. I've had a number of direct sales recently, so that's pretty good. I was selling to local gaming stores just before the virus outbreak. So that kind of put a damper on that, since those stores aren't open currently and I can't leave my house to hand them books. But yeah, I'm doing a lot of direct sales, so that's good. I'm still working on the second book, the follow-up, Chalt's Fuchsia Malaise. So that's coming along really well. That's going to get the big hardcover treatments, just like Chalt. I'm actually trying to work on, what I did with Crimson Dragon Slayer D20, where it's just a very rules light D&D OSR type thing. Well, I'm trying to do that with Alpha Blue now, and it's coming along pretty good. But it's changed a little bit. It's not quite as comedic or silly.
Is it going to actually be OSR? Is it going to be actually based on the D&D rule set?
Yeah. You're going to be rolling a D20 and everything.
Okay, I'll believe it when I see it. And what about this Fuchsia Malaise? Is it going to be another mega dungeon like Chalt was, like primarily, or is it going to be something else?
It's going to be smaller dungeons. There's going to be the Elysium. Basically the sci-fi off-worlder base where they're colonizing and they're trying to take over Chalt themselves. So there's that's a big area. And then there's a lot of other smaller dungeons. There's like underground stuff and a tomb and some city stuff, and a lot of smaller dungeons. But right in the same wheelhouse. Maybe not as crazy as the Mega Dungeon. Scaled back just a little bit, so it's not as Gonzo Funhouse. But still Chalt. Still Eldritch, Gonzo, science fantasy, post-apocalypse. It's all the hits.
All right. That's good stuff. Anything else, or is that the extent of your current shilling?
I think that's it. I should have that new Alpha Blue up soon, maybe the end of next week. And then I invite people to check that out. It'll be just a free PDF. It'll probably be like 5 pages. And I'm going to do my best to play test that to try to get feedback and try to find out myself what's working and what's not. So if it goes into an appendix of the new Chult book, for instance, it'll be ready by June.
All right. And Grim, you've just released Satana Station, I understand. Is that right? Or is it just about to be released?
It has been released. You can get it print or PDF, but I'm waiting on the print proof, so you might want to hold off on that till I've made sure that it's all fine and dandy and good to go.
For any of our audience who are curious about this, you all know, I suppose, that Venger made a game called Alpha Blue, which is about a sleazy space station, basically. And I, at one point in my RPG Pundit Presents series, decided to do what would be my version of that space station with, actual OSR stats and a little bit less smuttiness and a little bit more kind of griminess. And I called it Fuck Station Aleph. And, I think our last show, Grim Jim had mentioned something about deciding to try to do the same thing. And it was I think I mentioned that it would be a great source book for Machinations of the Space Princess. So there you are, Satana Station. That's the third version of this space station. And now you guys can pick up all 3 and judge for yourself which one you think is the best.
Or just use them all in combination. That would be cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, because there's all kinds of stuff that'll probably be compatible. Definitely between Grim Jim and Mines, because they're both OSR. As for Venger, I'm sure that you can pluck some ideas out and some random tables or something. You can't pluck the mechanics, but there's still a lot of stuff in there.
Still OSR, you bastards.
D6 dice pools not OSR, goddammit.
Yes, it is.
It's about 150.
Star Wars, man, and Ghostbusters. Ain't get more OSR than Ghostbusters, except for D&D, of course.
It's about 150
Grim,
pages. Yeah. It's got 100 sort of locations within it. Bunch of NPCs, spaceships. Fleshes out some of the sort of implicit background of Machinations. So there's plenty of stuff there. A card game I did with Rachel Haywire, Election Party, I've got a bunch of copies of that, and I should still be able to go to my post office because there's one village shop and we're allowed to go and buy food occasionally, so I should still be able to post stuff out if people want it. Otherwise, I'm mostly going to be trying to do small, quick stuff in the coming weeks and months so that I can put out more stuff for people to use. It is the idea. So sort of cheap, accessible things to play with. But if you've got any requests that aren't huge supplements, Satana got away from me a bit. Then let me know, and I'll try and provide stuff that you'll find useful.
Right. Martin Tepley asked a very important question in the chat. He said, "How do we get the Pundit Station?" Well, Martin, you've got to go to Drive-Thru RPG, and it's Spectre Press is my current publisher, and they've obtained the rights to all the RPG Pundit issues. But basically, do a search for RPG Pundit Presents, and trying to remember which number was Fuck Station Aleph. It was, I think, 50 something. But anyways, it's one of the RPG Pundit Presents issues, and you can find it on Drive-Thru RPG. It's I don't know, it's actually later than 50 something.
Not 69.
You'd think it would be, but no, apparently not. I guess I didn't think of that. So anyways, all of my RPG Pundit Presents, there's 99 issues of them out right now, and they're all relatively short books. Fuck Station Aleph is bigger than most. It's they're all stuff that you can use in any kind of OSR game. About half of them are focused on medieval authentic OSR gaming, and the other half, like Puck Station Aleph, are all kind of gonzo weird fantasy with some science fantasy OSR stuff, which is all stuff that was inspired by my DCC Last Sun campaign. So it's all kind of coherent internally, and there'll eventually be some compilations of that coming out. In fact, World of the Last Sun will be the next compilation that comes out, but that might not be for a while. Oh, here we go. It's number 89. RPG Pundit presents number 89, Fox Station Aleph. So that's where you can pick it up. As far as stuff that I'm doing now, well, I've been told that within no more than a week or two at the most, we should likely have RPG Pundit Presents number 100 out. And that's going to be a very special issue. It's going to be bigger than usual. It's going to be, I think, about 50-some pages. And it's called Star Adventure, and it's a complete space opera OSR game that is based on the OSR mechanics I used in my Lion and Dragon Medieval Authentic game. So if you played Lion and Dragon and you like how character creation happens there and how that OSR variant is, then you're probably going to really like Star Adventure if you're into space opera, because it's very much a space opera sci-fi RPG, not hard sci-fi, but the kind of space opera sci-fi of the 70s. The like I said in my latest video in my own channel, the main influence of it was probably the first Star Wars movie. Like if you looked at that kind of in isolation, and it's got a lot of neat stuff in it, but it's mostly a rule set. There's no like setting to it, so you can use it to run, for example, adventures on Alpha Blue or on Satana Station if you want to use a different kind of grittier, I guess, mechanic. I don't know how gritty Machinations is or not, but in any case, in my latest video, I explain a bit more about what's in it, so check that out on my channel. I also give a shout out there to Machinations, the Space Princess, as one of the good space opera OSR games that are already out. But I think mine's just a little different, and it'll have some good stuff. I've seen the cover, by the way. The cover reveal is coming really soon. And I quite like what Spectre Press did with that cover. So you guys will hear more about that shortly. That's the thing I'm working on right now. It's coming out very soon. And then the other thing I'm working on, besides the ongoing future issues of Pundit Presents, is putting together the compilation for the World of the Last Sun. But that might not come out for 6 months or more. We don't know yet. Usually those big compilation books take their time. So there we are. Yeah, that's everything I'm promoting at the moment. Joe Koo says I'm going to buy the hard copy of Alpha Blue. Venger says get it from Amazon. There we go. Okay, anything else to talk about before we finish up? Any other subject or questions from our audience? Oh, Jared Weeby says, is there a compilation of Pundit Presents issues in print? Yes, there is one. It's called The Old School Companion. And The Old School Companion is a 268-page compilation book of the first half of my medieval authentic source books. So it has all kinds of stuff in there that you can use to add medieval authenticity to any OSR game. Obviously, if you already own Lion and Dragon, then it's like the best Lion and Dragon source book you could possibly buy. It has new character classes. It's got expanded critical tables. It has tons and tons of expanded magic stuff, including a whole bunch of grimoires and new magical techniques and all sorts of stuff, all of which is based on real medieval sources, real medieval magic books and things like that. It has guidelines for how to run court intrigue, caravans, like merchant stuff, different medieval authentic activities. It has setting material on the clerical order and how to play a cleric. It has supernatural encounters. It has a whole section on the fairy realm and medieval elves and elfland in a very, very medieval authentic context based on medieval, myth and legend and stories, and a lot more. So be sure to check out the Old School Companion. It's doing really well. It's part of why I've had such a good month this last month. It's doing really well, and you can buy it on PDF or print from Drive-Thru RPG from Spectre Press. Dave Dedman says he'll buy World of the Last Sun if books still exist in the steaming ruin of what was our society 6 months from now. All right. Anything else to say, Venger?
You can still support us on Patreon for Inappropriate Characters, these monthly videos that we do. Those who are already supporting us, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And, check out our blogs and definitely comment. And I love getting feedback and reviews and reading actual play reports. I just read one earlier today from a guy that's been running Chalt for a couple months now on the Mixed GM blog. And I love reading that stuff. And so I hope you guys continue to, give us your feedback and review things and write about your experiences with our products. Obviously, we make them with love because money is not our primary reason for doing this. If it was, we would do something else.
That's right. But it's good to be able to make a living from it. Anyway,
yes.
The only thing I would add to that is also share this video and like this video, because that's another great way to help us out. Let's say if you're having hard times right now because of the virus, if you can't support us on Patreon, then just share our videos so that people will subscribe and we'll get more activity here, which is also a great way to show your support. And I guess we're going to be back in somewhere between 2 weeks to a month from now, assuming that Grim Jim is with us and that Venger is okay too. I'm like Donald Trump. The virus isn't going to hurt me, but you just know that whatever politician or public figure might end up getting the thing, Trump isn't going to, just because he's under the protection of Keck.
It's the orange skin that gives him his.
That's right.
His
He's got a lot of
and virus proof.
It's carotene. Carotene is the secret weapon against the virus. All right. Actually, next time we're probably going to have some kind of a guest star. So keep an eye out for that. We were trying to have one today to replace Grim Jim in the talking role anyway, but it was too short notice. He only came down with this sudden super COVID after he badmouthed Boris, so we didn't have time to organize that. Any final thoughts, Grim Jim? Or do you want to spare your voice?
Well, if we're leaving. Yes, I'm sorry for having caught the super atomic gonorrhea, and hopefully I'll be better next time.
Well, I'm sure you will, and I mean, I think honestly, this whole thing, it shows what a hothouse flower our society has become, because only a society so pampered as ours could be having this kind of attitude towards something like this. It's because we're disconnected from the notion of the reality of death.
Yeah, I think you were saying,
unlike any other society that ever came along before, right? Like we're it used to be a really, really normal thing to die from disease quite often, just like it was extremely normal for there to be famine or for there to be, starvation or for crops to fail. And all of those things don't exist for us only because of the modern world. And so we're ill-equipped to deal with it.
I think you were saying earlier how it's made how petty and stupid a lot of people's concerns are really apparent. I think it's also demonstrated a lot of bullshit that we just assume about this is our society and the way we treat each other and all of that. It's interesting times.
Yeah, it sure is. And I think that a lot of that kind of social bullshit, like I said, I'm quite certain that this is going to, I thought the SJW type movement was already on its way out, but I think that it's going to hasten the demise of the whole, false activism and identity politics movement, because people won't have any patience for that sort of bullshit after this.
Not when there's real economic and concerns like that. Anyway, let me go to bed.
All right. So that's everything for tonight, guys. I hope you enjoyed the somewhat shorter than usual episode, but we'll be back, and hopefully next time we'll be talking about something other than the pandemic. We'll have better topics to bring up, but it's kind of been, it sucked all the air out of the room, right? Like I haven't seen a lot of news about RPGs on the whole, in the last few weeks, because just everybody's talking about this. I think that can't last. So I suspect that next time we'll be back to bitching about something someone said. All right.
Well, take care, everyone.
You too.
Okay.
Look after yourselves.
See you later, guys. Thank you for watching. Currently smoking Near Egg plus Image Virginia.
And the show's ending before my bedtime. That's crazy. It's never happened before.
I know.
Yeah.
It's weird. Good night, everybody.
I'm the bad guy?